Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest feists to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to listen to Tree Talking Time. I'm your host, Ben Sheets. I just wanted to come on and just say thank you for all the Squirrel Dog guys that have been downloading these podcasts. I've had a lot of interest, had a lot of feedback. Just wanted to say thank you. And since we've been getting a lot of feedback, I just kind of want to throw this out there. I live in southeast Pennsylvania. Squirrel dogs, not a big thing, but we are definitely trying to promote them over here. So I just want to let you know about a few hunts in my neck of the woods that me and some of the guys that I hunt with are putting on. September 10th, there is a UKC Cur night hunt and bench show at the Chester Burks Coon Hunters Club. All that information is on the UKC website underneath the Cur events. And then on September 24th, just a little bit further north at Steins Hollow Beagle Club, we're going to be hosting an NSD hunt. All that information can be found on the NSD website and app. Like I said, we're going to try and get some more Cur and Feist events over here in eastern Pennsylvania. So if you're over this way or you want to, not too far and you want to travel over here, give us a shout. We'd love to see you. Without further ado, here's today's episode with Mr. Calvin Boteet.
In my young years, teenage, we just had farm dogs. My grandfather was a sugarcane farmer, and we had dogs around the house. Go push the cattle in, pen them up, whatever. But I never hunted much. And in the 80s, early 80s, I got around bulldogs. You know, they used them to catch hogs and stuff like that. And I did some of that. And then I got out the dogs, the bulldog, and I just got bored. I didn't have there wasn't any dogs that got my interest. And a friend of mine gave me a magazine. I was going offshore. I worked in the oil field. I was a welder. I spent a lot of time in the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
And I brought some books. He gave me some old magazines with coon dogs, and they had a little bit about squirrel dogs, and most of it was coon dogs. It was the full cry. It was my first time ever seeing a full cry magazine.
Okay.
And going through that thing while living offshore for about, I guess I'd stay out there sometimes 2 to 3 weeks, but I'd read them books at night. There wasn't much to do when you was off of work, and I'd look at them pictures. I come across an ad there that had Robert Kimmer, and it caught my attention. There was some cur dogs, and I knew some Kimmers. I was good friends with some Kimmers in Gulfport, Mississippi, from the Bulldogs, you know. So I contacted them. I said, there's this Kimmer in this full cry magazine in Tennessee. And I didn't know that their dad was originally from Crosville, Tennessee. And he said, yeah, that's our cousin. He's a cousin of ours.
Okay.
Okay, so boy, I got interested, and I did a little more research, got in touch with Robert, drove up there, my wife and I, and 2 boys of mine, they were young. This was in 1988. And back then, hell, there wasn't nothing but single cab trucks, you know?
Yeah.
If they had an extended cab, I didn't have one, but all 4 of us loaded up in that truck with suitcases and whatever we needed to spend 2 or 3 days on our trip. And here we go to Tennessee. That was a 12-hour drive for me. That was a long way. Them kids, them 2 boys of mine, they're 40. They're grown now. One's 45 and one's 42 or 3. They don't want nothing to do with them dogs. I wore them out on them dogs, making them long trips.
I can't imagine. I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I can't imagine shoving both of them and my wife into a single cab truck and going 12 hours.
We did that, man. We did that a lot. I'd get off of work on a Friday early, and we'd leave, and we'd drive to Crosville, Tennessee, get there that evening, and get up the next morning, make a squirrel hunt, and then make a coon hunt that night. They had the week. We go for the weekend of the. I was just young into this. I was just trying to learn. I didn't know what I was doing, but man, it was a rough trip. I couldn't do that now. It would kill me. And then make the squirrel hunt that morning, and then the coon hunt that night. Then Sunday morning, visit with a gang of people at Roberts and drive back.
Man,
to be home to go to work Monday. And I destroyed my boys and my wife. They don't want nothing to do with them dogs. I ruined them.
Yeah. I,
Well, my wife likes them dogs, but none of them. When I'm gone, these dogs ain't nobody in my family gonna keep them going. I understand that part.
gotcha.
But I've loved them. I've loved the dogs and watching them perform and the natural ability. It's always been something that I really like. I didn't have to kill a lot of squirrels. I just wanted to see them work. And I
Yep.
don't have a lot of squirrels, so it was easy for me to just see the natural ability in them and let them do. But I started with Robert's camera curves,
Yeah.
and coon hunting was pretty popular, but it was probably starting to decline about the time I got in because the price of the hides was starting to go down,
Yeah.
and it was and I really would have rather a squirrel dog because I'd rather squirrel hunt with dogs than coon hunt because there wasn't many people around here that did it,
Yeah.
and with squirrel or coon really in my area it was me and a couple of other people within a 50-mile radius of here that hunted with dogs, squirrel dogs. But Robert, I guess he could see squirrel hunting was getting popular then. They were starting to have competition hunts,
Yep.
and it was getting real popular. And so it was his idea. I'll give him all the credit about what I do with the Cajun Squirrel Dog. Robert had done some of that. He called them camera fights,
Mm-hmm.
and he just had too much. It was too much. He couldn't. He had got too many projects like I get sometimes, and he just would rather somebody else try it. So he pushed me into that. He kind of told me you ought to start doing this and call them Cajun Squirrel Dogs. Cajun was a popular thing, with the food and the culture and stuff like that.
Yep.
And that's where the name got started.
I think this is a perfect time to introduce yourself because you are known as Cajun by a lot of people.
Yeah, back then, yeah, I was known as the Cajun. I wrote columns for the Camera Dogs before they ever had an association. I wrote a column,
Okay.
and it was in full cry, and we were just we could see the Camera Dogs were kind of, you stood out. They stood out. You could tell a Camera Dog when you saw one back then, even though it was still registered with the original mountain cur breeders.
Yeah.
And we hadn't started the Kimmer breeders. But I wrote a column before that Kimmer Association ever got started, and I just kind of talked about the Kimmer dogs, the Kimmer curs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was known as the Cajun, and it kind of stuck with a lot of people back then.
Yep. So, in case you're not familiar with the Cajun, talking to Mr. Calvin Boteet here.
Yep, Calvin Booty. My last
Okay.
name. Yeah. Well, it's pronounced Booty, Butte. It depends where you're standing, what city
Okay.
you're in. But it's French. I know that.
Yep.
So we started doing it. I got to meet in the early days. I met Jody Mullen.
Okay.
I guess it was about 1990, 91. We went to Jody Mullen's at that time. He lived in Tennessee. He was a couple hours drive from Robert. We went over there. Robert, Jim, and myself. Rodney Smith, a good friend of ours from Iuka, Illinois. We all went to Jody's house, and I left with a pup out of Jody's Tuck dog. She was a daughter to Tuck, and she was out of her mother was a daughter to the old Bounce dog.
Okay.
And I caught her a little bit. I brought her here, raised her, and she was a little bitty thing. She wasn't big at all. And I had a small camera cur. They got some small ones. Them camera curs, every now and then you get some that's small. The yellow jack line used to produce them small ones every now and then. I had one that was directly out of Yellow Jack. Robert had given to me, and we called him Cajun Jack. He was maybe 12, 15 pounds.
Wow, that is small.
And yeah, he was small, a little bitty thing. And I bred him to a little bit, and from that cross is where the Cajun Squirrel Dogs, that was probably where they really started. There was some really good dogs out there. The best ones of any cross I ever made ones that got in the right hands of, hunters like Todd Coles,
Oh,
and
yeah.
people that knew dogs and gave them a chance. The man that had the best one out of that cross was a man named Jimino Thompson. You may have heard talk of him through the years, but he's a good friend of mine from down here in Louisiana,
Okay.
and a woodsman like no other. He just knew all kind of tricks, things I never knew, and I learned a lot from him. He's 82 or 3 right now, and he's he's having a little bit of a rough time with his heart. But he's a good friend, and you don't never hear him complain.
Yeah.
But was he some kind of a dog, man? His dogs loved him. Every dog he ever had loved him, and they performed for him like nobody I ever seen. It took me years to learn to get that kind of loyalty from a dog.
Mm-hmm.
But he got it. So I had people like Robert Kimmer that helped me with the breeding part of it.
Okay.
And then Jimino Thompson helped me with, just learning how to get these dogs started and make better dogs out of them. Just being with him and hunting with him, watching him handle his dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And he had some good ones, and a lot of them, he hunted several of them that came from me. And I don't know that Jimino ever got one that didn't make a pretty darn good squirrel dog or coon dog.
Okay.
So
Nice.
so from there we just continued breeding them,
Mm-hmm.
and we used mostly the Mullins Feist at that time. It was Mullins crossed over the cameras. It really worked well.
Gotcha.
And then there have been some other Feists we've used, and there's still some other Feists I use even today. There's some Feist in Mississippi. They call them Rotten Bayou Feist that Fletcher Ladner has, and I've used a couple of his.
Okay.
And they're young, they're in the early stages, but I'm getting some good results. There's people that's really liking them. And of course, we're doing something with Todd. We got a litter that'll probably be born in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And that's a line of dogs Todd's got that's really done well. And they already had some Kimmer in them, but it's been a while, so we're gonna add some more and just see how it works. I expect it to do well because I got to say this: in the breeding, the years I guess it's been about 33, 34 years. I have really had a good luck with the natural ability reproducing. These dogs reproduce. These Kimmer dogs. Robert concentrated them. He did a good job of getting the right ones,
Mm-hmm.
concentrated, and I stayed close to the stuff that was really producing, and I've still got that today, and they just reproduce, man. They're just natural, and they reproduce, and I like that.
Out of curiosity, which line or dog has really stood out as far as Kimmer dogs? I mean, I know, like you said, Yellow Jack and Blondie 3, and there's some big name dogs that have where people have really taken that dog and they've line bred on it. Is there one particular line you really like?
Gold Nugget and Blondie 3 were and a dose of Yellow Jack. Yellow Jack was important, but just for me, he just didn't want too much. They were a little bit hyper, and some of them were a little bit jealous.
Okay.
There was a little jealousy at the tree, and they were just so high strung. So if you just got the right amount of that Yellow Jack, and it didn't take a lot. It just didn't take a lot. A quarter, even less. I got much less than a quarter today. And a little bit of Yellow Jack they carry really suits me,
Mm-hmm.
But the Gold Nugget blood and the Blondie 3 blood is where I believe a lot of the natural ability from the winding. They wind these squirrels, they just throw their head up, wind a squirrel from a long ways off, and then they just get, and the more you hunt them, the better they do it. And they do it with coons too. I'm gonna say squirrels because that's what I'm around the most.
Mm-hmm.
With squirrel hunting, don't do much coon hunting anymore. But there's such naturals at winding. I can almost tell anybody that gets pups from me if I got enough Kimmer in there, I can tell them that those pups are gonna to watch them and be prepared. They're going to throw their head up and win game. And if they're new and they don't have much experience, I let them know that if you see them throwing their heads up, a lot of them think that they're looking for something, and sometimes they may be looking, but most times they're using their nose to win game. And when they're young, they can't pinpoint it, but they do a lot of that. And as you feel game to them, as you knock out games, they get better and better at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I give a lot of credit to the Kimmer side for that.
Okay.
Now the Feist side, these full Kimmers I had years ago that I started with, I don't think they had the eyes and the ears that these dogs I have today have, and that I contribute that to the Feist. These dogs will timber out a squirrel and stay underneath them as pups, where it used to take a dog 2 or 3 seasons to get good at that. I see them do it young now. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
They stay under a squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
It impresses me. I love to see that, I don't want them to tree by sight, but I want them to stay under that squirrel once they do tree it if they can,
Okay. So by that statement alone, I'm going to guess that you're not a competition hunter.
I am not a competition hunter. I don't. In fact, I feel better about competition when I speak to Todd, because they're not the group that does the things that turn me off on it. They're a little bit. I probably wouldn't have a problem with competition if it was designed for the dog to do the winning.
Yeah.
But a lot of the ones I was around, the handler had too much involvement in his dog winning or causing his dog to win. I mean, I just couldn't deal with that. So I don't care. I want my dog to get off that tree and follow that squirrel, and they don't want that.
Yep.
So here's my thoughts. I tell that to people. That is a competition dog. That is not a squirrel dog. In my eyes,
yeah,
I want a squirrel dog to stay with the squirrel.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And so I just, some of these competition guys, they want them to hug that tree and not move, and that squirrel's timbered out or moved over. I want him. A true squirrel dog should try to stay with that squirrel. So I'm not big into competition. There's not a lot of people I know that got my dogs that do competition on it, and maybe there is some, and I just hadn't heard about it. But I don't promote it, don't push it.
Yeah.
If they want to do it, sure, more power to them. But I don't care. But I'm not, I
just not something that you want to do.
That's right. I want them to. I want them to do it natural and to do it like it should be done, and they're doing that. I'm real impressed with the way these dogs are showing their natural ability.
Yeah, nice.
The Feist that I use in the curs and the Kimmer curs. The only curs I use is the Kimmers. And the Feist, there's been 2 or 3 different strains of Feist, but the Mullins has probably been used more than any of them.
Okay.
The Mullins really cross well with the Kimmers, and I've had really good luck. There's a guy in Texas, in Conroe, Texas, got a pair from me. They're half Kimmer and half Mullins. And the female, he's got a male and a female. The female is a coon and a squirrel dog. The male is a really good squirrel dog, but he's not real crazy about coon. But his sister is, and he goes hunt with curs and hounds, and she wins coons that them dogs don't know in the woods. Nice. He really gets his kicks with some of these hunts he goes on because they know his dog's half Feist.
Yep.
And they don't expect that to happen, and she'll treat many coon that them dogs had, and they'll look at them. She's not just barking up a tree; they're looking at a coon.
Mm-hmm.
So they can do that. They do that too.
Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned that you cross a lot of Kimmers with Mullins or with the Feist. So would you say the Cajun Squirrel Dog today is a lot of first generation crosses, or are you perpetuating the puppies after that and breeding more like Cajun Squirrel Dog to Cajun Squirrel Dog?
Yeah. Well, I've got both. I got some that's still, I always keep Kimmers, full Kimmers, and I always keep full Feist. and I use them when I need them. But I've got some that have been bred both. They're both Cajun Squirrel Dogs,
Mm-hmm.
and they're reproducing just as well.
Okay.
I was. And you get to a point where you gotta try it. I didn't want to just do half, and keep it that way. I wanted to go further away from the cameras and see if it would work.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of maybe a quarter camera and three-quarters spice.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had good luck with that.
Okay.
And I've had good luck with three-quarter camera and a quarter spice. It's just maybe a little bit bigger.
Yep.
So I've had good luck. The most important thing for my dogs to do well, and any crosses I make, and I know there's some crosses that don't work no matter what, but I get a high percentage that does. Here's the big if. People like to say, well, are they going to, is this pup going to do anything? Are you going to guarantee it? I used to do that. That was something Robert started, and I did it many years ago when I first started just doing what Robert, did. I
Mm-hmm.
don't do that anymore. I don't because I tell them, okay, look, there's a very good chance this dog's going to be fine, but I'm not going to guarantee it because too many people have not done with their part. And you got to take
Yep.
them out. You can't leave them in the kennel.
Mm-hmm.
These dogs love people. If you get these dogs, if you win them over, and you're their friend, they care about you, they will do all they can to please you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how they are. I heard Roberts use that term years ago that they love to please.
Yep.
And that's the truth. They do love to please at anything. I mean, they're very smart.
Mm-hmm.
If they care about you and you haven't mistreated them and you've given them time they need in the woods, they will do their best for you. And I get a lot of results. Now, today, there's people that don't hunt as hard as the ones that did 30 years ago. They don't have the timbers to do it in. They don't have the,
Yep.
the deer hunters lease everything around here where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get to hunt in good timber till the deer season's over, and that thing's starting to go till the end of January.
Yep.
So you don't have we don't have the unless you drive to these wildlife management areas, and that's 4 or 5 hours driving for me.
Okay.
I don't want to do that too often, especially now. But you don't have to kill a lot of squirrels for these dogs. Some people do.
Mm-hmm.
But you just don't have to. It don't take a whole lot. Once they know that's what you want, you shoot a squirrel or two to them each time out, and they're thrilled, and they will learn that stuff, and they'll be as good as Jesse Lynch, the boy in Conroe, Texas, with the two he had, he'd kill anywhere from 700 to 1,100 squirrels in a season.
That's a lot of squirrels.
They got a lot of squirrels. Texas is a big state, got some big old timbers.
Mm-hmm.
And he hunted hard like that and killed a lot of squirrels. He got, he made some very good dogs. They really love people. They love children. My grandson's got one down the road from here. I give him, and they made him part of the family. My son, my daughter-in-law, my two grandsons. He's just a big pet, but they got to watch him at the back door, the glass door outside. If he sees a squirrel, you go through it,
Mm-hmm.
And they never showed him that.
Yeah. Now you mentioned about like making them a part of the family and that makes them want to please you. Robert said the same thing, and when I talked to him last fall, and
Mm-hmm.
with the Kemmers, he said you take that pup home, you make it just a member of the family, and you take that pup everywhere you go. And he goes, for one, you'll have the best dog of your life, but two, he goes, that dog's gonna want to please you. And he said, then that way, when you show it what you want, he said that dog will do whatever you want it to do.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I've seen it too many times. I can't do it with all my dogs, because I got about 12 dogs, but the few I handle a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I see it, but people that have just one, there's people I know that just got one. Look, they get things. They get to see things out of those dogs like that. It's unbelievable. My grandson, the one he got, he's 2 years old. I guess that dog's he don't talk and it's all. Mm-hmm. He loves them people. My grandson had his wisdom teeth removed about a year ago. That dog was about a year old, and he came in the house and It was an outpatient thing, and he came in with his face all swollen and gauze stuffed in his mouth, and he went to his room, and that dog was so upset. He knew something was wrong with that boy, and he
Yep.
never left that boy's side until that boy was up moving around, and he knew that boy was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just them dogs are like that. They love you, and the people that do that with them get that kind of bond. They just get the best dogs, like Jimino, the one I mentioned earlier, Jimino Thompson. He had dogs that loved him so much. If somebody tried to borrow one and leave with it, the only way it would get in their vehicle, Jimino would have to go sit there and get him in there and then jump out.
Yeah.
So, but I learned a lot from him. But these dogs of mine, the Kemmer's always been my bloodline, my chosen bloodline to keep here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Feist, was something I added to make a smaller sized dog to keep the natural ability. We made sure we used Feist that were, natural free dogs,
Yep.
And the Mullins is, like I said, I started with that, and I've got more of that, but I've got others, and I'm liking them too. So that Kemmer blood, it crosses well with a lot of things. It really does, and I've got the Blackjack line here. These lines change through the years. We used to call it Gold Nugget.
Yeah.
But Blackjack, if you look at his papers, he's heavy Gold Nugget.
Okay.
But Gold Nugget's been dead so long, Blackjack kind of contributed a little bit different size dog, a little bit different type of dog. There's so many lines of Kemmers,
Mm-hmm.
So the Kemmers I have in my yard today are heavy Lady Nugget,
Okay.
heavy Blackjack, and a couple of them got a little bit of yellow jack, not a whole lot. Don't take much.
Okay.
And it really works. It really works. And then I use those dogs in my Cajun Squirrel Dog breeding, and I've got a 3/4. I call him Little Smoke. He's 3/4 Mullins Feist, and he's a quarter Kemmer.
Mm-hmm.
Now he don't look like a Mullins Feist. He looks more like a cur dog, but he's got more Mullins Feist blood. He just took from the cur dog side,
Yep.
Smartest dog I've ever had. That dog will listen to anything I ask him, and he does a good job at anything we do. Now the only problem with him is my fault. He's not real crazy about strangers. He don't know. He won't. He'll be a little bit off. He won't perform with a total stranger around.
Okay.
And that's because I didn't expose him to enough strange people. It was always me and him.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes him a little while to get comfortable around somebody he don't know. He's not that he wants to bite him. He's just standoffish.
Yeah.
And I bet you if I'd have hauled him as a pup and brought him everywhere I went and exposed him to people, he'd have never got that way,
Mm-hmm.
And his pups are not like that. His pups, I got pups out of him that leave here, goes with people, and they do. They just got one, and they bring them everywhere they go, and you don't never see that side of them, because Smoke, I just didn't expose him. You got to expose him to everything, man.
Yep.
It really helps,
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a lot of fun. I've been doing this I'm going to retire this year in December, and then I'll have more time to do other things. I'm not going to retire and come home and watch soap operas. I'm going to farm a little bit, and I'm going to fool with the dogs too.
We're going to briefly talk about this. You say farm a little bit. Man, your garden is huge. What are you talking about farm a little bit? Like, you got a big old garden for not being a full-time job. I mean, working still.
Yeah, still work full-time. But, the garden is bigger than what most people would use as a garden. And I've been preparing it for this time when I retire. And I'm going to even make it bigger after December for next spring. And I'm going to farm. I'm going to farm full-time right here. As long as my health holds up, I'm going to farm as much as I can handle. Nice. And I want to sell produce. Right now I just kind of do it for fun and give it to family and friends. And I've sold a little bit, but not much, because to do it, if you're going to sell it, I just need the time to be here and
and do things the way I need to do it. Working full time, I can't.
Yep,
I
I
just
understand.
not. Yeah, so I plan on doing that, and I sure do. I love it. I love doing that as much as I do the dogs.
Now, how big's that garlic patch?
That which one?
The garlic
The
patch.
garlic patch. I gotta adjust. Yeah, I had planted 1,100 cloves of garlic from Frank. I put in that row. It was
So,
a 200 foot row, and I put 1,100 garlic cloves in there. They grew well. They were beautiful, and I thought I was going to do well, but the heat we have in Louisiana,
mhm.
I found out that if I don't harvest them in April, and they still haven't matured, and in May and June comes around, it destroys them.
Okay.
So this year, when I plant garlic, I got to plant them much earlier. I didn't plant those till December. I'll have to plant this year. If I want to do well with garlic, I'll have to plant them in October.
Okay. Now, for all the listeners, just to show you how small of a world this is, I buy straw from a man named Frank. And one day, Frank asked me, because he knows I have coonhounds, how my dogs were doing. And I told him, and he said, I got this guy that bought some garlic from me down in Louisiana. He's got these things called Cajun Squirrel Dogs. I said, is his name Calvin? He goes, yeah. So,
yeah,
just to show you how small the world.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like Frank. Frank's a character, man.
He is.
I like Frank. We when we do talk, I know he's busy. We hadn't talked in a while, but when we do talk, he's a character. I laugh.
Mm-hmm.
He's something else. But yeah, and he got some good quality garlic. It's just the time of year for me. I got to change the time of year I plant them and make them, because Louisiana heat is a little bit different than Pennsylvania heat.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But yeah, Todd Coles and I got a dog that I bred a female to his male, and he's got her up there to him.
Yeah, he told me about that.
That's another cross that we're going to be doing that we hadn't done. I'm excited about,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see how they do. I don't really have any concerns if they get in good hands.
Yeah,
they're going to do fine. That's just how I look at it.
From what I've learned from Todd about his line of dogs, and also just from the other people that I've interacted with since doing that have dogs from Todd, and also just knowing what I know about the Kemmers and your dogs. If I was looking for a squirrel dog, shoot, I'd be wanting to try one.
Yeah. His dogs are just crazy natural tree dogs,
mm-hmm.
and mine are too. And they do have a few things a little bit different. He's concerned about getting a little bit more size on his, and maybe we're going to help that a little bit, and get a little bit more ear on them and stuff like that. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah.
The female that's over there is a nice Kemmer. She's 7/8 Kemmer, and she's game crazy as they come. And that game craziness, it used to be aggravating when I didn't understand it. Dog that's not being used enough is drive you crazy. But you got to have some of that.
Yeah.
You got to have that. Robert was the one that told me that. He said you got to have it. And there's some people that won't keep some of the dogs I keep because they're just hard to keep in a kennel and everything. They want to go. They want to do something.
Yep.
And if you're not hunting them, if you don't get that edge off, like old Gemino used to say, you got to get the edge off. The way to get the edge off is to get the shoe leather wore off of you.
Yep. Putting them in the woods.
Those kind of dogs take a lot of hunting to get that edge off, and then they mellow out and they're easy to handle. But you're not hunting them enough. They high strung, but I will never get rid of one for that. I might be mad at him for cutting up like that, but I need it. I mean, you breed them to the right male or females, and you get that balance. I try to breed a dog like that to something that's a little more calm and easier to handle, and get those pups with the right balance,
mm-hmm.
and they get them in the right hands. There's just no end to what they can do.
Yeah. Now you can't put driving pup in a dog if it doesn't have it. So.
That's right. That's one thing about these dogs. They all start treeing at different ages. A lot of them start young. Some start a little later. But I got some 9 weeks old right now. I'll turn loose every day at noon when I come home for lunch. I just turn them out, let them run, And I thought today I got to start watching them. They're starting to range. They're going to start going to look for something. They're getting bored. I got 2 acres of this garden, this field that they can play in, and it's not enough. They want to go deeper. So they don't stay in your feet. Not this breed of dogs.
Well, that's good. I've dealt with that. I've had a couple dogs that just didn't have the drive to go, and like I said,
Yeah,
you can't put that in there. So
you can't make them get. And when people ask me is how deep do your dogs get? You know, well, with the collars today, I mean, I don't. We didn't have that when the kind of collars they got today. And some of them dogs they hunt too deep, or some of them would get off on fast game and it ruin the hunt and all that. Mm-hmm. Them days are over. I will never leave my house with a dog that I can track and send him a signal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If they get 200 yards on squirrel, I buzz them. I don't shock them. I tone them. That tone button is a miracle worker, man.
Yep.
I just tone them and they come in. You know, they come a little closer. I want a pleasure hunt. I don't want to walk 500 yards to the squirrel.
Okay.
You know, I just don't want to do it if I don't have to. And there ain't no need for that anymore. Mm-hmm. But some of these dogs will do it if you let them. You know, you just got to let them know what's acceptable. You know, ever since I've started with these campers, I never had a dog that didn't want to hunt. They always wanted to go, man. They loved to get out there. You know, I never had to deal with a dog that didn't want to hunt. And it just Robert Kemmer told me when he started breeding old Tennessee Mountain Blondie, she was the dog that really made him, you know, when he started breeding her. But he said before her, and you know, he said them dogs, you had a bunch of them that would, you know, they was always in your headlights, you know.
Okay.
They just wouldn't get out, and he talked about that. And when old Blondie come around, and the one thing about her, she'd dig out the kennel and stay gone for 2 weeks on the mountain, you know, and carry pups with her. You know, that was something he'd never seen. So he paid attention to that. Now that's a little bit more than I want, but we can adjust that with the feist breeding into them. And the yellow jack blood was good for helping that bring them in a little bit, not go so deep, and the feist helps that, and then of course we got the collars, you know, the tone button that does a wonderful job of keeping that dog from getting too deep or getting on fast game, all those things, you know.
Yep, definitely.
It does. I'll never be without one.
The modern track and train systems have changed absolutely everything.
Oh yeah, man. Even getting them on the tree. Now I'm cautious with that because I'm not patient enough. But some of them friends of mine that really put time into this, a dog that'll mill at the tree, you know, and they know how to tone them. You tone them right and tell them get on that tree, or to make up their mind and stick closer instead of just milling around, going from tree to tree. After they've got enough time that where they should straighten that up. Some of them take that as a habit, you know.
Yeah.
And you can stop that quick with that little tone button, you know. When they know what get on the tree means, or then they stop all that. I've got a friend that did a great job with that, you know. Mm-hmm. It helps with a lot of little problems that some people, you know, used to have to do other things to make it stop. This makes it humane and it works, and they don't think it's coming from you, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not a fix-all. It's not like you just push the button and it does it for you. But if you know how to use it, it's a tool, and if you know how to use the tool,
that's right.
Are certainly a wonderful tool to have.
And I don't need a lot of that, but every now and then you got one that you need that. But most of my dogs that I take now, I barely ever have to use it. But every now and then there's a hard head, you know.
Yep.
So when I put those collars on, I go to the woods. I don't even use it on Lil Smoke. Lil Smoke, he's just so good handling. I don't need no collar with him. I don't leave home with him either. I hunt him around here most of the time. If I left home, I'd probably want to have a collar just in case. But he's just one of those I just don't have trouble with, you know.
I'll tell you a story real quick. On the last time I turned a dog loose, well, it wasn't even without a collar. It was the first time I ever took him with a collar. And this would have been 6, 7 years ago, something like that. And I had a puppy. He was like 6, maybe 7 months old. I had just bought a second collar. I'd been taking him since he was probably 4 months old out hunting with me and my old dog. And, you know, he was a pup. He never left my light for the most part, coon hunting. Well, I literally just bought a second GPS collar. I was still on the old Astro system, didn't have track and train. So it was just a tracking collar. But I finally at least had one. So I put it on him. The first night I put it on him, he like disappeared. Went across this big old field, ended up, 3/4 of a mile behind some farm, way off in the distance in the opposite direction that we were hunting.
Oh, Lord.
And I was like, I am glad I had that collar, and I will make sure I never turn a dog loose without one again, because if I wouldn't have had that collar that night, I would have lost him for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I had me and Charles Fasola, another good friend of mine, has had some really good chemists through the years. He still got chemists today. We went on a hunt. We drove 3 or 4 hours to meet each other in the wildlife management area. I had a dog that I didn't have a collar at that time, and we turned loose, and he treed squirrels. He was a good dog, but I had never seen him act that ignorant for a deer like he did that day. He run a deer. We had to go. We lost him. He ruined the hunt. It took all day before somebody at a camp called, and they had him at their camp. And we went get him, and that was the day that broke me of not having a collar. I said, I'll never turn this dog loose without a collar again.
Yep.
And they were just starting to come out, it was something kind of new. Those old-time tracking collars, with them antennas and all that, I never could get into them things.
Yeah, that was before me. I got involved right as Garmin was making waves and becoming a household name for dog hunters.
Yeah. And let me go back to the dogs, the Cajun Squirrel Dogs, and the people that are using them.
Mm-hmm.
There's some serious hunters that get them and use them for strictly hunting, and they're pleased with them.
Yep.
But I get a lot of people that want them for family, house dogs, and they want to hunt them too.
Okay.
And man, those dogs are making some of the finest family dogs, house dogs. They just can't say enough about them. Now, they're not people that's going out there every weekend killing a sack full of squirrels, but they are treating squirrels with them, and they're plenty satisfied. And they do so much more with these dogs,
Yeah.
There's a family in Palmerville, Louisiana. That's way up north near Arkansas state line.
Mm-hmm.
And the husband works in a pipeline, and he's not home much. Mm-hmm. And the wife and the 2 children, they love them dogs. They really love them dogs, and they just do everything with them. And when her husband comes home, usually around the holidays, he'll spend some time home, 2-3 weeks a month, whatever. He takes them dogs to the woods, and he goes kill squirrels. They ain't hunted all year. They've never been hunted much, except when he's home,
Mm-hmm.
So they're very versatile, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They can make family dogs, and the cur dogs. That's what they once were. They were just They did everything. They did everything with the farm, and they'd go free game at night and during the day, and bring the hogs, catch hogs, and bring the mules in. Nobody lives like that to use them that way anymore. Very few people, but the ones that are doing like this family I'm telling you about, they get results from those dogs. Like, it's just unbelievable. For as little as time to hunt them, he'll go to the woods with them and come back with a limit of squirrels, and then they may not do that again till next Christmas. But they're pleasing the family the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned when we were setting this up, you mentioned that there was somebody up here that had one from you.
There's three families in Pennsylvania. There's a chiropractor
I haven't said his name in so long. I don't remember. He's got one from me. He's got a sister. She's not a litter mate, but she's a full sister to the female that Todd
Okay.
Cole's being bred. They're full sisters. And he's got one, and he hunts her on squirrel and pheasant.
That's what I wanted to bring up because I thought that was super interesting.
And she blood trails deer.
Nice.
They use it for everything.
Mm-hmm.
They think the world of her. Her name's Mackenzie. They call her Mac.
Okay.
She's a yellow. She looks like a little 30-pound, 25-pound skimmer is what she looks like.
Okay. I have to find out.
Yep.
We'll have to talk later, and I'll have to find out if anybody's local because I'd love to see one
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, you might not be too far from one of them. I forget where Tabitha's from, but she's planning on really putting it on them this coming fall. They got a lot of squirrels around the house, and
Good.
and those dogs are beautiful dogs. But yeah, they're really doing well over there. If they get handled, they get treated right. I don't really hear much negative about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually always good. It's always good. Let me tell you another story. There's another pair of litter mates I sent to Missouri. Now, those dogs are probably 5 or 6 years old now, but a man and his wife, he's a farmer, and they raised them, and they raised them in the house. They tree squirrels. They're not big time hunters, but they'll tree squirrels, and they will kill them a few a time or two during the season. They're not big into that. They just wanted them to be companions and kind of like varmint dogs around the house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a coyote that come out on the property close to the house, and them two dogs knew, and they're small. They're not big. They might be 25 pounds.
Yeah.
And they were smart. They were smart enough to know that they wasn't gonna be able to do nothing with that coyote. But they got that couple that owns them attention, and the husband come out and shot that coyote.
Nice.
And he took care of all that and everything. Now
Mm-hmm.
he sent me a video right after he shot that coyote, and them dogs was around it. Then he took them hunting in the back, and they treated a squirrel. Well, one of them was treeing that squirrel. They were both kind of treeing, but one of them was treeing hard.
Mm-hmm.
The other one faced away from the tree
Watching the other one's
and
back.
watching for them. That coyote had her attention, and she was watching. I mean, I'm sure she don't do that all the time, but because of what took place that day,
Yeah.
I got a video of that. I got to find it because I had put it on there. She was watching for that coyote if there was another one while the other one was treeing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very impressive. They are very smart. They really are. Yep, they sure are.
Now,
I enjoy them.
just out of curiosity, what colors primarily and build and ear set do most of these Cajun Squirrel Dogs have?
I get a lot of brindles.
Okay.
And I get a lot of brindles and a lot of camera-colored yellow buttermilks.
Mm-hmm.
I get half and half sometimes, depending on the cross.
Okay.
Sometimes I get a black. Not often. I got a couple of blacks in a litter right now, and that's because of the blackjack blood on this particular cross.
Okay.
And the mother's yellow. She's yellow, but she's heavy in the blackjack blood. It's a funny thing with these kimmers. It's been proven many times. When you make a complete outcross with a yellow kimmer, you're going to get some brindle puppies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's something that takes place here that contradicts that. When I breed Smokestack, who's a full Mullins,
Okay.
to my full kimmers, I got a litter right now. There's 6 of them. 5 of them are yellow, and 1 of them brindle.
Okay.
But any other feist I breed to that's of a different line, and I breed a yellow kimmer, I'm going to get probably all brindles.
Hmm. Now that you mention that, Robert did tell me that when I talked to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the yellows. You know, if those outcross, Robert bred a female he called Goldie,
Mm-hmm.
the Smith Streak,
Okay.
many years ago, and all them puppies were brindle. You know, and
Interesting.
Goldie was a yellow. Goldie was a yellow dog. She never had nothing but yellow pups all her life until he bred her. Until he bred her to Streak, and they were all brindle. And but now when I breed the smokestack, a full kemmer, I always get more yellows than, and I'll get one or two brindles, but the rest will always be yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
and
interesting.
yeah, and then Lil Smoke. Now Lil Smoke is 3/4 smokestack. He's brindle with some white on it,
Okay.
and his mother was out of smokestack also. I made a 3/4 cross. I bred her back to smokestack.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a kemmer involved in there that was a black saddleback dog
Okay.
that went back to B.J. Buck, and B.J. Buck, Robert had him. He was a Gold Nugget Jr. and his wife Luella's female beauty, and he was black saddleback. That line of the kemmers was very good stuff. But you get those black brindle trim dogs, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Lil Smoke, even though he's 3/4 mullet, and he looks like more of a cur dog, he throws them black brindle trim pups strong, man. He's got that strong in him, and he's 3/4 smokestack.
Yeah. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. He throws some really. Sometimes he throw black and tan with where the brindle would be. It'd be tan. There's some pretty pups like that.
Yeah.
But he most of the time is black brindle trim,
Okay.
and he gets a lot of that. He got some really nice pups. I like his pups.
Nice. And I would imagine build on those dogs kind of depends on if they favor the Feisch line or the Kemmer line.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Little Smoke don't you know he don't look he don't show the mullins in him at all. He shows mostly the cur. And you know, like I said, he's 3/4 mullins.
Mm-hmm.
He's a daughter bred back to her daddy. The
Yeah.
daughter was half Kemmer. She was half Kemmer. Bred her back to her daddy to make 3/4. You know,
Yeah. You
and
would
that's what
certainly.
Little Smoke is. Yeah,
You would certainly think that that Mullins blood would shine through, but apparently not.
it didn't do it on him. Now he had a sister. He had a sister. Had a 3/4 sister to him. I made that cross twice. The second time there was a sister that did look like this Mullins, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but Smoke didn't, and he's making me a real nice squirrel dog and stud dog, you know.
Nice.
Yep.
I'm glad he's working out for you.
Yeah. Well, I am too. It's been fun. It's been 34 years that I've done this.
Mm-hmm.
I give Robert Kim a lot of credit for helping me get started. I'll never not do that because he did help me get started with the right stuff. He
Yeah.
knew more about this. He knew more about these type of dogs than I did, and put me on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
And he did help me get this going, and I'll always thank him for that.
I really enjoyed talking to Robert. Learned a lot about his dog. The proof is the fact that the Kemmer dogs have become so successful for a lot of people all over, from all across the country.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true.
So I think that's just proof. So
that concentration of that bloodline when he got his hands on that female that impressed him so much because of what he was so used to dealing with, and he had never seen one like that would was that game crazy and had that kind of nose and this and that. Everything she had, he had tried to breed for, and just couldn't get it. And when she came along, he paid attention and he started breeding her, and keeping those pups and concentrating that bloodline, and that's where it started.
Yep.
You know, the one
Definitely.
thing Robert Kimmer, he had his old. Everybody knew him from his old rough dog. You know, he was an old dog that was Ledbetter bred. That Robert kind of one of them man-made dogs. Robert did everything with him and hunted so
Yep.
much back then. Ruff learned to do everything. You know, he just did it all.
Yeah.
But he was never real pleased with him as a reproducer. Told me Ruff really never reproduced.
His exact words to me was, because I asked him, so what's the best dog you ever had? And he said, probably old Ruff. And that's what he said. He said, but he's like, I did everything with him. He goes, I hunted for a living, and that dog was the dog that I used every day. But he said he was the sorriest reproducer I've ever had.
Now, he said that. Now, I know he's going to hear this. He knows that he's not going to be mad at me for saying it, I don't think. But what he knows it's true, but he misses it. He didn't reproduce. I believe him. But then, guess who was the grandfather to old Blondie?
Ruff.
Old Ruff.
Gotcha.
He was the grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
So it skipped a generation before it really got right. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why, but it still worked. And he bred it to Ruff one time. He bred it to her grandfather.
Okay.
That was probably at a time when that was unheard of, you know?
Yeah.
And so he did raise a lid out of her and old Ruff once. So that was a grandfather-granddaughter breeding.
Mm-hmm.
But that concentration on that bloodline of old Blondie kept them dogs natural, and they're still showing it today. And you're right. People all across the country got them.
Yep.
I concentrate on the smaller ones,
mm-hmm.
the ones that are not quite as big as the full-size camera. I guess there's some people that like them 50, 60 pounds or more, and mine are more around the 35, 40-pound range, you know. That's the cameras I try to keep.
Yeah.
So that when I use them, I don't get too big of a dog with the feist, you know.
Nope, that makes perfect sense.
And it's plenty big enough for squirrel hunt.
Yeah.
They use them on. You can use them on other game too. I mean, they'll do it if you ask them to.
Yeah.
But a bay dog, you know, a bay dog don't have to be a giant. I mean, a
mm-hmm.
catch dog might need some size, but a bay dog, if he's going to bay, he don't have to be 80 pounds.
Definitely not. No, like I said, I've got a lot of respect for Robert, and I really like what he's done. I just find it interesting, and the more and more people I talk to, especially about breeding, the line breeding and concentrating, and really trying to, and basically do what Robert did and create a consistent line, is becoming more and more evident the more and more people I talk to. It's people that are successful in perpetuating a consistent, line of dogs. That's what they've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think like I said, the proof is just in the fact that it's worked for Robert. It's worked for Todd.
Mm-hmm.
It's worked for a bunch of other people.
Right.
So.
Right. You know, I make these outcrosses with these feist, but the concentration on both, usually on both sides of the family,
mm-hmm.
has been the Mullins and I'm going to use the Mullins and the Kimmers. Jody pretty concentrated a lot of that blood too, you know.
Yep.
And it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I always go back with the offspring of a cross. I either go back to the Kimmer side when I breed them again, or I go back to the Mullins. I don't never get far from what has worked for me, and
okay.
And I kind of do the same thing, but I may have a little bit more of an outcross. But
mm-hmm.
they're so concentrated. When you make a little outcross, you get the hybrid bigger, and it works, you know.
Yeah. Well, we definitely need a good story, good hunting story. So
hunting story.
I can't let you off here without a good hunting story.
Well, that would have to be with Jim and O. Thompson, the man you heard me speak of earlier, and Charles Fasola.
Okay.
And there was a guy that came down to buy a started dog from Jim and O. Jim and O always had really good dogs, and even his started dog was better than most people what most people call their finished dog. He was just such a dog man.
Mm-hmm.
So he got a pup from me, a Kemmer, full Kemmer, and boy, he was wound tight with the blondie blood. They called him Rip, and Rip was about, I think, 8, 9, maybe 10 months old, and he was a coon dog. He hunted mostly. Gemino loved coon hunt more than anything back then when he could get around. And as he got where he couldn't get around as good, he did more squirrel hunting. But he loved the coon hunt. But anyhow, he had done a lot with Rip, a young dog, and there was a man from Arkansas looking to buy a started dog. So he came to Gemino's. And me and Charles and him went to the worst swamp you could imagine. It was probably the July heat.
Oof.
And there's snakes, and we got snakes down here, and walking in the water about halfway up to your knees most of the time. And so Rip, we took him by himself, and he struck a track, and we let him go, and he treed way in there, man. And we started going to him, and there was a lot of palmetto. You know what's palmetto?
Mm-hmm.
Get undergrowth in the woods. Y'all got that up there?
No. I've seen pictures of it from down there, but
okay.
No, we don't have any of that up here.
Okay. Well, it was thick where you put your foot. You was walking, but you never could see from your knees down. You couldn't see what you were stepping on.
Mm-hmm.
And Gemino knows how I am about them snakes. I don't like them. He don't like them either. He don't like them either, but he don't let them. He don't let him take his piece. So I was in front of him and Charles as we were going toward the dog, and Gemino picked up a stick and he hit me on the back of my boot, just like it would have been a strike from a snake. And he tells the story, people that I cleared an acre of palmetto running through them. After I felt that thump on my boot, there was a 1 acre of palmetto that was cleared out. But we went to that dog, and we looked at the coon, and I don't know, he was 300, 400, 500 yards in there with me. And the guy went look at another dog the next day who didn't hunt quite as hard and as far, and it was a Kimmer dog, but it was somebody else that had it, and he decided that he better take that other dog because he didn't know if he could handle Rip. Rip was a dog for 8, 9 months old, and so that story about Gemino hitting me on the back of my boot, he thought it was a snake that struck me, and I just cleared out the palmettos in there.
I don't blame you.
I tell you what else he did. That one night we was a full moon and couldn't get the coon to look, and it was in back of my house right here where I'm at, and we were trying to find the coon. Them dogs were treeing, and boy, they was. Gemino said, "Turn off your light." Everybody turn off your. Me, him, and Charles again. So we turned the lights completely off, and he started looking in that tree, and I didn't know what he was looking for. And he said, "I think I see him." I said, "How can you see that coon?" He said, "You got to just look on all them branches and on them limbs and find something that just don't look natural to the tree." Well, I mean, I thought I was doing that backwards. I hit that button again. He said, "Give me your rifle." And he shot that rifle with no light, and he knocked that coon out.
Really?
Yeah.
Now,
done.
I will say, I've tried the trick. You turn all your lights off, especially on a real nice bright night, and you just look for a big black spot.
Yeah.
But I've always lit it up to make sure it was a coon after that.
Gemino had some tricks that I've never learned them all. He was something else, and he give me and Charles all kind of hell because we were greenhorns back then.
Yeah.
He'd give us a hard time, and he'd kill himself laughing. We'd bait, put some corn in the ground and side of a creek bank, get them coon to come to hit a hot track, with a young dog.
Yeah.
And Jimino said, I ain't never had to do that. He said, it cost me enough money to feed them dogs. I sure ain't feeding them coons at 3 o'clock. He said, that dog's mine. Better go find me one. He loved to pick at us like that.
Yeah.
He just, we had so much fun with him. And now, the last few years, he didn't get around enough to hunt. But boy, he can tell them stories. Let me tell you.
That's awesome.
I'll tell this one if you got time.
Oh yeah.
Him and Charles and I were going down the road with them dogs in boxes, dog boxes,
Yeah.
And it was when we first met Jim, and we hardly knew him. But we all had timber dogs, and we'd go meet him because he had such good dogs, and we were learning, But Charles had a black mouth cur at that time. He hadn't got switched over to Kemmer yet. And we're going down the road, and Jimino had his dog in the box, and Charles had his. And one of them dogs was barking. And, some of them dogs bark in the box. And Jimino went down the way. Jimino said, is that your dog barking in that box? And Charles said, well, it might be. He said, he don't usually bark like that. He said, damn, that dog's aggravating. So they kept going down the road. That dog kept on barking. So Jimino kept complaining about how that dog was barking. And Charles said, well, look, pull this truck over. I'm going to go back there and make him shut up. And Jimino killed himself laughing. He said, don't touch that dog. He said, that's my damn dog barking. He said, I wanted to see if you knew the bark of your dog. He said, that's the kind of stuff we had to put up with learning from Jimino.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's something now.
Sounds like it.
One time on a competition hunt. Now this man, you may have. He wrote Full Cry. I'm trying to think of his name. Maybe it's better I don't say his name. But anyhow, his dog got on a deer on a competition. Now Jimino told him. He said, "Your dog run a deer?" He said, "Yeah." He might. He said, "Well, my dog come back." So he said, I think he's running a deer. Well, why your dog ain't running that deer? Jimino wasn't going to tell him. I'm not going to tell it. Jimino, we didn't have shock collars back then. Jimino did it the old way,
Yeah.
But he just told that guy, he said, I just told him I'm not a deer hunter. He had sayings like that that was so funny.
Yeah.
The guy was really, really wanting to find out how Jimino got that dog where he wouldn't run a deer. He said, I just told him I'm not a deer hunter. He's something else. He's a man that and he's an Indian. He's got Indian blood. Man, he just knows things about the woods. It's just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
He used to take his kids in the woods when they were young. He did that with his grandson. I'd never thought of it. And he'd go in the woods hunting, and he'd make as if he was lost, and let them kids help him get out the woods. Yeah, that's how he taught them how to track themselves out of them woods.
Yeah.
He'd get close to the house, kind of close, and he'd say, well, I'm not sure which way to go, and get them little young kids to start thinking and using them, and then he'd let them find their way home,
Mm-hmm.
Help them. I'd never thought to do that with mine. I'd have been carrying mine, make sure I didn't lose them. But that's all he ever did. I mean, he lived to hunt. That's all he ever did.
Yeah. That's impressive when people are that good. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep, my best hunting stories would have to be with him.
Good deal. Well, I think that's about all I wanted to cover for tonight, unless you got something else.
No, that's it. I appreciate you giving me a chance to tell my story on these dogs and the people I've learned from.
Mm-hmm.
It's been an experience I enjoyed, and I'm getting into my retirement years, and I can enjoy it for a few more.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for giving me a chance.
Well, I thank you for coming on. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.